Well, this week, the Q1 earnings results is almost concluded, but one observation is what might seem like a non-reaction to some of the results. To discuss this with us, we have Mr. Tony Odutola. He's the Deputy Head Investments, ICO Pensions. Is going to help us understand some of the earnings that were released, that have been released so far. Good evening, Mr. Odutola. Thank you so much for sharing your Saturday with us.
Good evening, Ini, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we just talked about the delisting of 11 PLC. What can you tell us about that? It's voluntary and it's in preparatory, you know, for some other action. What can you make out of that?
The company Double One PLC has come, initially to say we want to go private. We don't want to be listed on the exchange anymore. And of course, the owners of the company, the members, have come to agree. I've gone to the court, gotten approval to go through that process. And of course, I filed, the notice to the exchange. And the exchange has said that should go on. So of course, the regular process for that to happen is the suspension takes place first. All of that takes, a period. I don't have the exact details before the, eventual delisting of the company. But of course, it's in line with what the owners of the company said they want to achieve.
So a lot of results have been released, but one of the things that seem to come out of that is we're expecting the markets to have, like this week we had 3 negative sessions. Is the market not reacting, not moved by the corporate earnings anymore?
Well, there are a few other related and maybe unrelated issues that would affect investor sentiment. You would realize that we are at a period where interest rates are rising. And what that then tells is that there are probably other attractive returns elsewhere. And so investors will then make judgment calls as to where it's best to, stake their hard-earned funds. So as it is, yes, results are released. It then means that for investors who are looking at it, they don't feel too attracted by those yet. So, until things change, things are still very much fluid at the moment. So until you see those changes, we may continue to see the apathy.
Some of the analysts I spoke to during the week talked about the issue of money supply and the fact that investors may be looking beyond the earnings now to management or corporate action. Some of the banks have had change in their management and things like that.
The changes for several reasons or different reasons, as it were. For GTB, for instance, it is reshaping for a new phase that they intend to go into, change the structure of the business, evolve into a holdco, have focus on other areas that the bank has risen that will give them, the leverage to be able to compete better going forward. For the likes of First Bank, maybe regulatory induced, maybe not changes to the management now. That's to the board, and I think somewhere down the line we'll probably further discuss that. But the changes are for different reasons, and of course, investors will of course be taking how do I put that now? Comparing those events to other options that they have, and yes, money supply, yes, but then you could always flip assets. If you think that there are better
If you think
options.
this is a better deal for you.
Which one?
If you think it's a better deal,
then
your money supply is not really, that's what you're saying. Okay, all right, so let's look at some of the counters now. For instance, in the oil and gas counter, Seplat recorded an increase in its revenue from 42.4 billion naira to 57.4 billion naira, while Adova, on the other hand, showed profit before tax, but for corresponding Q1 period of 2020, they had a decrease in their revenue. How do we explain this? Does it have to do with what's going on in the global oil markets space?
Okay, so interestingly, the companies you've highlighted don't necessarily operate in the same space. Adova will do regulated products, refined products mainly, and that's capped at the moment in terms of what price you can sell. Triple PRA would speak to that. Of course, we know that the under recovery in that space is absorbed by NNPC, which is a different story altogether. So what Adova does is pretty much buy and sell at a price that is sort of fixed. It's different for Seplat. A rise in crude oil price means that Seplat can sell at the international market at a better price, and of course that should flow through to the profit that the company can make. So we may be comparing apples and oranges in that instance where you're looking at what the two of them has done. So for Seplat right now, it's probably Christmas
and Seplat they've had a lot of good news. They're doing a quarterly dividends payment. They've had an increase in their revenue.
But they've consistently
listing.
They've constantly done that over the years in terms of paying special dividends and stuff like that. I mean, there were things that they had communicated to the market when they came, that this is what we will do. But I think what has happened to Seplat a lot more now, because if you compare last year, there were losses at about this time, which of course speaks to the fact that you are going to have impairments in terms of marking to market the value of the asset that you hold. In their case, oil price was at $30-something per barrel. And that would mean that whatever asset that you carry would have been marked to market, using those valuations. Today we are talking $70, so of course that will flow through into better results for them.
Okay, so let's go to the financial services now. Zenith Bank had a decline in gross earnings, while profits after and profit before and after tax grew. Access Bankers had a good day all through. When we talk about, and both of them are talking about the issue of acquiring Union Bank.
Okay, so if I start from the last one, I'm not too certain where the acquisition for Union Bank currently sits. I mean, if you speak to any of them, they would rather tell you we are not aware that that is going on. But of course, that's usually the story until you then hear that it's been finalized. I know Union Bank is shopping for suitors in terms of being, for acquisition. But there's a bit of a difference in the business model for Access and that for Zenith. I think you may see a similarity in the income for Access and UBA. I think that of UBA is a bit higher. But what I mean by that is that these institutions are also exposed to other markets aside Nigeria. So it will be interesting to see what contributions those other markets have to, bottom line. Of course, in the local market where the bulk of the income for all of them lies, we've seen rate environment go up. And what that means is that non-interest incomes are, going to be pressured, and that also will mean that it will be sticky at this time. But come the other half of the year, I think that they will pick up.
So before we leave the financial services, First Bank of Nigeria also made the news this week, yes, with the Moody's placing First Bank ratings on review for downgrade following CBN's action. There's been a lot of reaction, to CBN's intervention in their board and all that, and now we are seeing this. Well, so far, from your perspective, what has been the reaction, to these Moody's, especially to the financial services industry generally, not just First Bank?
Well, I mean, first off, for the bank, it is negative. It may also cast a bit of aspersion on the industry as a whole. I mean, what could bring about that will be questioning of the oversight function of the CBN itself in terms of forbearances. And I mean, I've heard questions being asked about, would this have been the same if it was another institution that, had those breaches? Will there have been forbearances, or the banks will have been taken over? But I think that we also cannot take our eyes away from the fact that First Bank is probably very, very systematically, important. And so maybe you may not be able to do the, but again, these forbearances are not entirely unknown to the market. We know that capital adequacy ratio had been, pressured. We know that NPLs,
Okay, so I think you should hold your thoughts.
Okay.
It's time for a break now. When we come back, we'll allow you to finish up your thoughts there. We're discussing the corporate earnings for the week on capital market. We'll just take a break. We'll be back to continue. You're welcome back. We're discussing the corporate earnings release for Q1 2021, and we have Mr. Tony Udutola sharing his thoughts. Do you want to finish up your thoughts?
On First Bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was saying, we knew these issues were there, and the bank, has been improving on those asset quality issues, up until now. The only thing that we were not informed, like in this, expressly, will be the insider dealings and corporate governance breaches that the CBN has come out to say expressly. Aside that, not entirely something that we do not know about.
Oh, okay.
So I think that with time, all of this will go, especially because the CBN itself has, stamped its authority and gone back to say these terms have got to be followed the way we had agreed that it should. So
okay,
I think that
right.
we
just before we let you go, the time is really short. Let's just get your views on the consumer goods and the industrial sectors. I mean, you have Nestle, International Breweries, Dangote Cement. What did you observe in this result?
In those ones, I think they've all done pretty well. Returned back into the green. And Nestle had a bit of a blip before. Now they're back. And the good old Nestle that we know is there. For the cement industry, you've had all of them report positive growth. I think Dangote was the only one that did about 3 times in terms of growth than the other industry players had done. But I mean, all in all, it's been positive.
So May is here, April is gone. What's your outlook?
I think in the equities market, precisely, right?
Yes.
I think it will still swing sideways, a bit of losses here and there. If I'll probably stick out my neck, I would say we may see a bit of the BS, holding sway. And that's principally because the fixed income market is, still on the rise, and you definitely will see activities, go in that space.
Unfortunately, we don't have time to discuss that. Thank you so much, Mr. Tony Udutola, the Deputy Head Investment ICO Pensions, for sharing your thoughts with us on capital market.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.